Hey, Chiefs fan, you were worried about the cap space, right? Well, hold on tight, because the Chiefs just dropped a bombshell. We're just hours away from the new league year and free agency, and Kansas City made a massive move to reshape its financial future. Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones have restructured their contracts, creating nearly $50 million in cap space. That's right, Veach, and the front office pulled off exactly what needed to happen, giving the Chiefs the flexibility to make key signings and keep this team in championship form. If you were stressed about how the team would navigate free agency, this news should put your mind at ease. Now, let's break this down. Why is this move so important? First off, it allows the Chiefs to retain some of their top players, while also being aggressive in free agency. Before this, Kansas City was in a tough cap situation, and fans were questioning how they'd be able to make any moves at all. But Veach had a plan all along, and Mahomes and Jones showed once again why they're true leaders, helping the team win, both on and off the field. Think about it. This money can go toward keeping Trey Smith and Nick Bolton, addressing key needs at left tackle and cornerback, and maybe even making a splash signing. Suddenly, the Chiefs are in a position of strength, instead of being backed into a corner. So now, I've got a question for you. What's your one-word reaction to this massive news? Drop it in the comments below. I'll give you mine in just a second, but I want to hear yours first. And this is just the beginning. Now that the Chiefs have cleared this cap space, what's next? Well, let's talk about how Veach pulled this off and what it means for the future of the team. All right, let's talk about how we got here. Just a few weeks ago, the Chiefs were in a tough spot when it came to cap space. Fans were worried. How was Kansas City going to retain key players and still make the necessary moves to stay competitive? The numbers didn't look great, and plenty of analysts were saying the Chiefs were backed into a corner. But if there's one thing we've learned over the years, it's this. Never doubt Veach. Veach had a plan all along, and it's now playing out exactly how he envisioned. By restructuring Mahomes and Jones' contracts, he created the flexibility the Chiefs desperately needed. But here's what separates Kansas City from other teams. While some front offices struggle to manage the salary cap, Veach has turned it into a weapon. He's always thinking ahead, always planning for the next move. And this restructuring is another example of his strategic brilliance. Think about it, how many teams in the NFL would love to be in this position? Instead of being forced to let go of key players, the Chiefs are now able to make calculated decisions. They're keeping core pieces, targeting new additions, and still maintaining financial flexibility for the future. And here's something even crazier. The Chiefs caught a break when the NFL unexpectedly raised the salary cap higher than projected. That gave them even more room to maneuver, and Veach wasted no time capitalizing on it. Without that increase, it's possible Kansas City wouldn't have been able to keep Trey Smith and Nick Bolton. Instead, they're staying in town, and the Chiefs remain in prime position to make another deep playoff run. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Veach is one of the best general managers in the NFL? Vote in the comments. Yes, he's a genius. No other GMs are better. All right, now that we understand how Veach pulled this off, let's talk about who's staying, who's leaving, and what moves are still coming. Now that the Chiefs have freed up nearly $50 million in cap space, the big question is, who's staying and who's out? Every offseason comes with tough decisions, and this year is no different. Some fan favorites will return, while others will be moving on. Let's start with the good news. Trey Smith and Nick Bolton are staying. Both players were crucial to the Chiefs' success last season, and with this extra cap space, Kansas City could make sure they remained part of the team's core. Keeping Smith on the offensive line maintains stability up front, and Bolton's return keeps the defense strong at linebacker. If the Chiefs had been forced to let them walk, it would have been a major setback. But thanks to some smart financial moves, they're here to stay. Now for the tough part, some big names are leaving. Joe Thuney one of the best defensive linemen in the league, was traded. It's a painful loss, no doubt. But the Chiefs had to make this move to clear even more cap space and keep their long-term flexibility. And then there's Justin Reed. The veteran safety was a key part of the secondary. But with the team's focus on younger talent and financial efficiency, he became a cap casualty. It's never easy seeing key players go, but that's part of the business. So, what about new faces? 2 names stand out: Jalen Moore and Christian Fulton. Moore is expected to step in as the Chiefs' new left tackle, a critical role protecting Mahomes' blind side. He's young, has potential, and comes at a much more manageable price than other options. Meanwhile, Fulton is an interesting addition at cornerback. He fits well into the Chiefs' defensive scheme and could allow Trent McDuffie to move to nickelback, which would give Kansas City even more flexibility in the secondary. These moves show a clear strategy. The Chiefs are keeping their core intact while also bringing in smart, cost-effective replacements to fill key positions. Now it's time for your take. Do you approve of the Chiefs signing Christian Fulton? Drop a yes or no nod in the comments. With some major decisions already made, there's still plenty that could happen before free agency ends. Let's talk about what's still on the table for the Chiefs in the coming weeks. All right, we've covered the moves the Chiefs have already made, but what about what's still to come? Free agency isn't over, and Kansas City might not be done making adjustments. Now that the Chiefs have breathing room in the cap, they can still explore a few more options. One area they could target is adding depth to the wide receiver group. Last season, the Chiefs struggled with inconsistency at the position, and while Rashee Rice emerged as a promising weapon, there's still a need for another reliable target. Could Veach make a move for a veteran receiver? Maybe a surprise trade. That's something to keep an eye on. Then, there's the defensive line. Even though Chris Jones is locked in, the Chiefs could still look for a pass rusher to help take some pressure off him. With the AFC loaded with elite quarterbacks, adding another disruptive force up front could be a smart investment. But here's the thing: while other teams go all-in during free agency, the Chiefs are playing the long game. Their real focus is on the NFL draft. Brett Veach has built a reputation for finding talent in later rounds, and that's where the Chiefs are expected to do most of their heavy lifting. Free agency is about filling gaps, but the draft is where Kansas City builds its future. And let's not forget Mahomes' impact. By restructuring his contract, he's once again proving he's willing to do whatever it takes to keep this team competitive. Not every franchise quarterback would make that sacrifice, but Mahomes' leadership is a big reason why the Chiefs can sustain success year after year. Now here's a question for you: if you could pick one more free agent for the Chiefs to sign, who would it be? Drop your dream signing in the comments. With all these moves coming together, it's time to grade the Chiefs' offseason so far. Let's break it all down and see how they stack up. All right, Chiefs Kingdom, we've broken down all the key moves. Now it's time to give this offseason a grade. Let's take a step back and look at everything the Chiefs have done. So far, they've managed to keep key pieces like Trey Smith and Nick Bolton, while also freeing up nearly $50 million in cap space. They had to part ways with veterans like Joe Thuney and Justin Reed, but they've brought in younger, cost-effective replacements like Jalen Moore and Christian Fulton. Plus, they still have the draft ahead, where Brett Veach and his team have consistently found elite talent, even in later rounds. Now, compared to where we started, when the Chiefs were up against a tough salary cap situation, this offseason has been a major win. Brett Veach and the front office found a way to remain competitive without sacrificing long-term flexibility. But what about your opinion? On a scale from A to F, how would you grade the Chiefs' offseason so far? Drop your grade in the comments. Personally, I'd give them a solid A-. They've maximized their resources, kept key players, and set themselves up well for the draft. The only reason it's not an A+, there's still work to do, especially at wide receiver. But overall, it's hard to argue with the results. Now, if you want to stay updated on every move the Chiefs make, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We'll be covering everything leading up to the draft, so don't miss out. That's it for this breakdown. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.